Dad was going on 6 months grounded when I came home from grocery shopping and found him atop the telephone pole. Our neighbor Rosie, in her 60s with large thighs and a little white dog named Mousetrap, was standing at the base, hands on her hips, shaking her imperious head.
At it again.
Soon the whole neighborhood was out there, gawking and tweeting, along with a man in a cherry picker, a cop with handcuffs, and my 6 siblings.
Dad!
My sister Mary cried.
For God's sakes, Dad. And John, Jesus Christ, where were you?
I asked her to please not take the Lord's name in vain. Mary 2 wrung her hands, and Mary 3 shouted at people to go home.
Go home.
I pay you to prevent this.
Matthew, the oldest, chided me. A lawyer, he was already on the phone adjusting tomorrow's schedule so he could accompany Dad to court. Unless Mark, the organizational psychologist, could talk the cops out of arresting him. Luke simply observed the crowd with the sad eyes of a businessman seeing an opportunity go down the drain. He had never managed to profit from Dad, but still believed there had to be a way. I looked on their consternation with pity. They thought this was a setback, another failure. They understood nothing. Dad, meanwhile, was busy getting closer to God. There he sat, at 73, arms outstretched. His balance was remarkable. It seemed a stiff wind could knock his lean form from his perch. Birds had been known to land on him as he held this posture for hours. I tried this pose myself, albeit on the ground, and found it quickly became excruciating. This led me to wonder if my father might really possess some supernatural strength flowing to him from a celestial force. He had always been fervent. When, as a boy, he developed an interest in saints, his mother, concerned he would seek martyrdom, steered him towards the ascetics. Saint Simeon Stylites the Elder from the 5th century became his hero. Dad was only 14 years old when he declared he wanted to live the rest of his life atop a pillar like good old Stylites. Simeon had been something of a rock star in his time. Village boys climbed his pillar to bring him food. Peasants sought his advice and arbitration in their disputes. And emperors sent bishops to fuss over him. He died, seemingly at great peace, at 71, still atop his column after 37 years. His asceticism earned him a place in posterity, too. For the next century, others, called Stylites after him, adopted the practice, and Edward Gibbon even included him in the history of the decline and fall of the Roman Empire, dubbing him the Patient Hermit. Many centuries later, my father heeded the call, except Knoxville, Tennessee was hardly the Levant, and his Baptist neighbors just shook their heads.
This is what happens when you worship saints.
They told my grandparents. Dad was unperturbed. Soon he was homeschooling himself from up there, and even wooed our mother from atop a pole at her expensive New England girls' school. Dad had been seeking a harsher climate to mortify his flesh, but ended up marrying a fortune.
He's not the lunatic he appears to be,
Grandpa Bryce once said. He never understood Dad either. Mom was a special soul. Guileless, open-hearted, and adventurous in her own way. Grandma Alice said that she was looking for something on which to impale herself. And found it. She had to be lifted up to Dad in a harness on their wedding day, while a priest shouted from the ground. Throughout their married life, until her death from a heart attack at the age of 57, my junior year of high school, she faithfully scaled whatever pole Dad was occupying with his dinner in a backpack, despite her fear of heights. If he coaxed her onto his lap, she was stuck there all night, clinging to him, too terrified to climb down. This, I imagine, is how we were all conceived. She said she liked being pregnant, as then she didn't have to climb, and Dad even came down for the birds. Well, some of them anyway. Mary 3 says she will never forgive him for missing hers. I was the last. and born in the midst of strife. Luke, 7 at the time, had climbed up to Dad on the pole on a dare from his friends, and then dared others to do it. Dad was at first pleased by the young visitors. He felt he was attaining the same status Simeon had enjoyed, until he saw money changing hands beneath him.
Then he had to go and behave like Jesus with the money changers in the temple.
Mary reported, rolling her eyes. Soon the whole neighborhood was in an uproar. Dad might have achieved martyrdom after all, in a fist fight. But Mom solved everything by going into labor and giving birth to me right there on the sidewalk. Dad, ecstatic, picked me up and took me to the top of the pole in a triumph.
When the ambulance arrived,
Matthew once told me.
all she could do was point up at him and whimper, "Please get the baby down."
After that, Dad had a dream in which God instructed him to be celibate. Mom made no protest. She never complained, though our grandparents wailed enough for everyone. Grandpa Bryce and Grandma Alice moved down south to be with their only daughter, and I will say with proper gratitude, they did a great deal for my family. But they were not exactly what you would call spiritual. Nor are my siblings, I'm sad to say, despite growing up with 2 of the best role models imaginable. I'm named after this disciple beloved by Christ, John, following Matthew, Mary, Mark, Luke, Mary 2, and Mary 3. By the time I came of age, my brother had taken charge. Matthew handled Dad's legal affairs, including the prosecutions, injunctions, and civil suits brought by the power, telephone, and cable companies, while Mark persuaded his colleagues to evaluate him. They found him to be mentally competent, of course. Luke, for his part, tried to set up a tour whereby churches throughout the country and the world would pay to have Dad come and demonstrate stylitism. This founder. Dad transcended their meddling and accepted his arrest as proof that he was worthy of being persecuted for his faith. When threatened with prison, he cited religious freedoms. On a pole, he insisted he could feel God in a way not possible on the ground, and he could not live without this communion. That was when Mark hit on the idea of a 12-step program. What was this if not an addiction? He presented Dad with his own copy of Stylites Anonymous, plagiarized shamelessly from AA. Dad perused it, but he said that his life and will had already been turned over to God. Then why, Mark asked, did he still need the pole? Was God calling him to do that? Or did he doubt his own faith? Was he trying to get close to God because he had not really surrendered to him? Oh, Dad took this question very seriously and descended the pole to consider it. My sister said it wouldn't be long before he'd be coming to make amends. That's step 9. They declared an enormous strain had been lifted off them. Mary took her kids to Disney World. Mary 2 got married. And Mary 3 finished her art degree. I was working for Matthew as a paralegal, but he assigned me to dad duty. So Dad and I made a fearless moral inventory of ourselves, acknowledged our shortcomings, and prayed to God to remove them. I questioned Mark's motives in giving Dad the book, but I had to admit it was one of the most spiritually intense and productive times in my own life. I had never so much as had a drink or scaled a pole since infancy, but I went around apologizing to people who I'd wronged in school, bullying them or speaking ill about them behind their backs. I apologized to girls who had been the subjects of my fantasies. I took a vow of celibacy, and I even considered entering a monastery.
Whatever.
Dad, too, was experiencing a spiritual awakening, despite already being one of the most devout people I knew. And as long as he did it on the ground, the whole family was happy. Then I came home from the grocery store and found him aloft once again, and everyone went back to gnashing their teeth. I told them it was time we erected Dad his own pole in his own yard. But Mary, armed with the language of recovery thanks to Mark, said that that would be enabling his habits. And when he finally fell and broke his neck, how would we live with ourselves?
At least it'll be over quick.
Mark said.
Yeah, it won't be a broken hip.
Matthew agreed.
I think he'd be fine going like that.
Luke avowed. I knew that he would be fine going however God saw fit to take him, and said so. Dad liked the idea of a pole in the backyard. He once floated the idea to our mother, but at that point, Bryce and Alice were still alive, and since they bought the house and they were paying the mortgage, the answer was unequivocally
No!
Now we began fighting it out, to give him the pole or not. In the meantime, Mary established shifts for watching over him.
Since it's clearly too much for you, John.
She brought her kids. Mary, too, said rosaries. And Mary, 3, had him sit for his portrait, which she claimed had to be done while he was at her level. Matthew did not have children, piety, or artistic ability, but he appreciated legalese, so he started reading the catechism aloud from start to finish. Mark played him podcasts and self-help audiobooks. And Luke's family set out to teach him every card game known to man. And as it turns out, Dad liked cards. He said they forced him to surrender over and over again because the outcome was beyond his will. Leave it to Dad to make simple entertainment into a moral exercise and spiritual lesson. I just let him talk about his first pole at 14, and then, so 20 years after that, the weeks he spent in a tree atop a ridge deep in the Black Mountains. These were his 40 days in the wilderness, the highlight of his life, though he was disappointed by the absence of demons. He was convinced that they would have appeared if he had not been forced down prematurely by the authorities. His sojourn even inspired one of the park rangers. For years, the guy sent pictures of himself on poles throughout the world. A distant, elevated figure holding a thumbs up. Dad papered the hall with them. I thought Dad and I would win out on the backyard pole. My siblings were wearying. Matthew spoke of a nursing home, but Mark said they wouldn't have the resources to address Dad's issues. Mary was still stuck on the failed 12-step program, which had not been a failure at all from my perspective. Dad was satisfied with the completion of the steps. He did not feel he needed to give up the pole. It was his means of obtaining grace. Mary, too, pregnant, started crying when I said this. And Mary, 3, said that Dad believed he had never done anything wrong in his life, that he may as well have been immaculately conceived, which was blasphemy, and I told her so.
Thanks, that's exactly how I meant it, you little shit.
She said. Little was inaccurate. I got our mother's elegant height, while all the girls inherited their stature from Dad, who, physically speaking, is a small man. Our 3 strapping brothers represent a happy medium. They are as robust and successful as men come. In fact, they are far too suited for life in the world. They accuse me of lacking ambition, but I know that worldly success is not the point. The girls, for their part, are jealous of them, and in turn, they are heedless of the girls, yet all reserve their harshest judgment for Dad. Luke, meanwhile, had gone ominously quiet, which meant a new scheme of some kind, but I never could have imagined what or who was to come.
Her name was Maxine, and she appeared in the guise of a home health nurse. That is, scrubs, very cheerful ones too. I believe they had tulips on them.
Fully certified.
Luke told us.
I checked it all out myself.
He gathered us at Dad's house during his shift. Dad was taking one of his 15-minute naps. He allowed himself no more than half an hour at a time, sleep being on his list of worldly luxuries.
How did you find her? Did you place an ad?
Mary asked.
That's something we should have discussed.
Matthew added.
We just stumbled on one another, got to talking.
Luke said.
How did you stumble on one another?
Mary too asked.
Oh, restaurant. Maxine's got just the experience we need.
You can keep old men from climbing poles?
Mary 3 asked her.
She can do anything.
Luke said. Maxine was solidly built, Irish and German she told us, with great meaty arms, powerful thighs, and a strong jaw. I hope she's not going to manhandle him, I said.
Dad's never been aggressive.
Mark her.
Is she going to live with him?
Mary asked.
Yeah, on a trial basis.
Luke said.
I think we need to set some parameters.
Mark began.
All she's got to do is keep him off the poles.
Said.
And take care of himself.
And if he gets hurt?
Mark demanded. We all looked at Luke, but it was Maxine who spoke.
I hear he likes cards.
It's become his one vice, I said, thanks to Luke.
Sometimes a vice can save you.
She replied sagely. I had never heard anything like that, nor could I think of an instance in which it was true. But I thought she might be channeling Jesus. After all, he was more interested in sinners than saints. When poor St. Jerome offered him his 40 years' work translating the scriptures in a drippy cave, our good Lord said he didn't want that.
Just give me your sins.
Christ told him. Poor Jerome.
So, Maxine, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Mary said now. Maxine was happy to oblige. Her parents died when she was 5, and she had grown up in a series of foster homes until aging out of the system and going to work for a maid service. Because she could work a lot without tiring and move furniture, she was an asset to her employer. Then one day she overheard him call her
My Lady Ox.
in conversation and quit on the spot.
Dignity is expensive,
She told us,
but worth the price. That's when I became a home health nurse.
Luke cut in.
She took some night classes, got certified, boom. Let's wrap this up. Maxine, let me introduce you to the old man.
She was not kidding about vice. Cards were her strategy. Gambling. 200 chips equaled 1 hour on the pull of Dad's choosing, anywhere within a 100-mile radius. Maxine drove him in his hitherto unused BMW, a gift from the family for his 70th birthday, as if Dad had ever cared about cars. The first time he got to pick, he wanted to go to the Smokies. Dad does love nature, and Maxine expertly chose a spot in Sevierville just outside the national park. Matthew had warned her about federal land. Then she brought him home the long way through Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge, where he could lament all the miniature golf, go-karts, outlet stores, wax museums, and other forms of commercialism, destroying both our country and our souls. By the time they got back to the house, most of the day was gone, and then it was back to the game. Everything from poker to cribbage to go fish.
He never even tries to cheat.
Maxine informed us.
Fucking brilliant.
Luke said. You've given gambling a spiritual purpose, I observed, but it's still gambling.
She's keeping the old man on the ground 99% of the time without so much as touching him.
Luke said.
And Dad's enjoying himself.
Dad's goal in life has never been to enjoy himself, I pointed out. I moved back into my wing of Matthew's house to give Dad and Maxine
Some space.
as Matthew put it, thinking Dad would soon want me back and Maxine gone, but weeks passed and we got no call from him, or Rosie and the cops for that matter. When Dad did take to a cold, it was under Maxine's strict supervision. He always came down willingly, she told us, and they switched up neighborhoods so the authorities didn't feel the need to act. The cops were pleased too, Matthew said. Dad told me he understood everything now, that he needed to work for the chance to be close to God, that all his life he had taken his reward without striving for it.
Life is about the game.
He said.
Every so often you achieve the ability to transcend it. Then it's back to the game. I wanted to transcend without playing. That's not allowed. No wonder there was always something missing.
Maxine was on duty 24/7 since Dad only slept 3 or 4 hours a day, but she never seemed tired. She said she dozed during longer card games and always took a nap while he was polling. Mary and Mary too took care of the shopping, cooking, and cleaning, Maxine moving the furniture when they vacuumed, and Mary 3 often went over there to hang out because she thought Maxine was cool. I'm not sure when the neighbors started arriving, but I came one day to find Rosie at the table playing Texas Hold'em, twitching mousetrap under her seat. Soon other retirees and housewives and stay-at-home dads appeared. Their kids had the run of the place. Maxine became the dealer. Eventually, she used the house's take to hire childcare, maid services, and grocery delivery, alleviating my sisters of their duties. People could show up for bowling trips too. They became fun family outings. Mary brought her kids, who also liked Maxine, and Mary too said that if her baby was a girl, she was going to name her after our Savior. Blasphemy again. I went back to work for Matthew and tried to focus on my own life, but I couldn't stand what was happening to Dad. Maxine had turned our house into a casino, illegal in Tennessee. Matthew was already negotiating with local officials about that. Meanwhile, I had 2 dreams about her. In one, she opened a jar of pasta sauce with her great hands and unleashed pureed tomatoes all over me. In another, she drove my father's BMW while Dad sunbathed on top. "That's not a pole!" I shouted. But it wasn't clear where I was. In the car? On the side of the road? They gave me no reply. I knew better than to share these dreams with anyone, especially psychologist Mark, but he was preoccupied with considering the implications of Maxine's technique, the possibility that even an addict could engage in his addictive behavior on a moderate level if there were elaborate systems of delayed gratification in place. She's just replaced one addiction with another, I argued.
Fair point.
Mark said.
Still an interesting concept, though.
Luke, of course, saw profit potential. Self-help books, programs, retreats, consulting gigs, expensive certification for mental health practitioners. This reminds me of when you tried to sell tickets to see Dad.
That didn't work because it was impossible to prevent people from seeing him.
Luke replied.
This time, we're really onto something.
It seemed an unholy business. I missed Dad the way that he was, when he didn't need anyone or anything but a pole. When it was him against the world. I would have put a pole in the backyard and let him live on it, however inconvenient, troublesome, or dangerous it was, because I respected his faith and the way he lived it out. In this, I was like my mother, a truly humble soul who'd embodied serenity. But Luke pointed out that this is not a world where we accept things. We are called on to take action and solve problems. And hadn't this one been solved brilliantly,
Go live your life.
he said.
Find your game.
I decided if this was his attitude, I would also take action by exposing Maxine. This proved laughably easy. She was no nurse. No, it only took a little asking around at the local bars to learn what she really did for a living before she found us. I went straight to Dad. He was playing blackjack. My brothers-in-law were there too. Did the Marys allow this? As well as plenty of people I'd never seen before, but I couldn't be bothered with introductions. "This woman is a prostitute," I announced.
Like Mary Magdalene.
Dad said.
Himmy.
Maxine gave him another card and he went over.
Fine.
And he exclaimed, at least he'd not taken up swearing. "Dad!"
Are you going to throw the first stone?
He asked. Everyone looked at me. I was speechless.
Let her do you in, son.
No! Do you see how ridiculous this is? You're not achieving anything. This is the devil's pastime. I thought a Baptist would help me out, but no one spoke. Maxine was corrupting everybody.
God works through the humblest things.
Dad said.
Amen.
Maxine put in. "You posed as a professional," I told her. "I could have you arrested."
It was all your brother's idea.
"Well, he won't protect you. You're in for a very rude awakening about Luke." Luke laughed when I confronted him.
You're the last to figure it out, but that's okay, Johnny. You're the innocent one. That's why we love you.
Did you sleep with her?
Me? No. But I was interested in her proposition. She didn't offer just sex, but sex and a card game in which I had the chance to win my money back. What a scheme! She's adding to the experience and creating an opportunity for herself to make more money. I told her, skip the sex and just play me. I wanted to see how good she was.
"I don't believe that you skipped the sex," I said.
And she cleaned me out!
He exclaimed.
I thought someone has to take this woman on.
"You mean as a pimp?"
No, I got her off the street. Hey, Jesus hung out with prostitutes. It's a match made in heaven.
"I hate you." Sin, but I couldn't help it.
Oh, you're going through a tough time, little John, trying to find your place.
I'm taller than you.
It's a figure of speech, little bro. Here, go play a few rounds on me.
I wouldn't take his Ben Franklin. But I did go back to Dad's. It was after 1 in the morning, and the house was lit up like Atlantic City. I slapped 2 20s on the table. I'm here to lose my money,
A child of the house?
said Maxine.
Never.
She pushed a short stack of chips at me, pro bono. The other players eyed me with contempt.
You have to figure out for yourself what these chips are worth.
Dad said, what the hell was that supposed to mean?
Watch your language.
Dad, this is all a ploy. You've been fooled. It's not God. It's Luke and Mark and everyone. They're running your life. Luke plans to get rich on Maxine. Dad didn't seem to be paying attention. So I threw down my cards and went and lay in the bedroom of my youth. The gambler's kids had long since stripped it of my childhood possessions, including my hidden stack of Playboys. I had liked dinosaurs, archaeology, insects, birds, chess, cards, video games. And with the onset of adolescence, sex. A normal kid, I reflected. A normal kid with a strange father whom I had adored steadily while other interests came and went. I had never been ashamed of him or even annoyed. I had never wanted to be in a different family, though I had often wished for better siblings. I had known my parents' love. I had valued my father's eccentricity and my mother's sacrifice. But now my father no longer seemed strange. However surreal the world of our house had become, he seemed like everybody else, just rolling dice, taking his chance. I cried for the loss of all the innocence that had ever existed, while the gambling went on below. Finally, I slept. And then I woke. It was a gray and misty dawn. I had a sharp mental clarity. It was late September. The summer heat was abating and the days were growing shorter. There was an abandoned utility pole in the park where we had always played. So, I took Dad's Bible, which he wasn't using, and a canister of yogurt-covered raisins, and I climbed it. After all, I thought, Dad had dedicated me to the style at birth. The climb felt good, but at the top I understood the terror Mom had worked to overcome and maybe never had. Lean too far in any direction and I would plummet to my death. How did Dad do it? And with arms outstretched, in the first 5 minutes I managed to drop both the raisins and the Bible. Paralyzed, I despaired of ever being able to climb down. As soon as they lifted that cherry picker to me, I was going to cling to the guy. How soon could they get here? It was a weekday. No one was on the playground. I began to cry. A bird landed on my head and shit there. Well, that was great. I felt I'd made a mistake, but forced myself to take a larger view. This was not about my personal safety or comfort. This was for God, who gave his only son, who died for our sins on a cross, which was much worse than this, and for my father, for his salvation. I decided to say a rosary. A pleasant breeze ruffled my hair, and I hoped it would not become any stronger. The clouds, I noticed, were intriguing when viewed from this height. Were those thunderheads? As were the playground and the park benches below, though none of them looked appealing as a place to land. I was one with the rustling trees. Occasionally my butt itched. What did Dad do about that? Offered it up. It harassed me, and then imperceptibly it stopped. I was surprised, sometime later, to find the itch gone. And eventually the kids arrived. They raced onto the scene, trailing parents and babysitters. I waved to them, feeling much better now, and pointed to my exploded canister of raisins. These they happily picked out of the dirt. I praised God and blessed them all, then presided over their playing with a growing sense of peace and an increasingly full bladder. That was to be offered up too. Dad and old Simeon had known what they were about. And then the cops soon followed, and the cherry picker along with my brothers and sisters. I saluted them. Then I saw the BMW. It was being driven by Maxine, of course. And Dad was sitting on the roof, just like in my dream. He had a bullhorn.
John!
He shouted. Dad! I shouted, smiling big.
Come down at once!
Come down?
This is not God's will for you.
He called. Mark was here now in the cherry picker. Mystified, I looked from him to Dad.
I don't have all day.
Dad shouted. He was unshaven, in threadbare corduroys and a white button-down shirt stained with grape juice. He was a slovenly old man. They got me in a harness, and Mark patted my shoulder. When we reached the ground, Dad slid off the roof of the car and opened the door for me. That was amazing, I told him. I finally understand. Dad just shook his head. What? Only you get to do it? I cried.
You are making a spectacle of yourself.
It was something Grandma Alice would have said. A spectacle? That's how he, the Stylite of 60 years, saw my vigil? Maxine gave me a gentle shove in the car and set my Bible and raisin canister on my lap. There were 3 yogurt raisins left in the bottom. Do I have to earn chips now? I asked Maxine. Is that how it works?
You need a girl.
She said.
I can help.
No, thanks. I couldn't believe this. I was shaking, soon I was crying. When we got home, they left me in the car. They had to get back to their card game. My siblings hadn't even bothered to come back to the house. Just John looking for attention, they probably thought. I sat there alone in the thickening dark, turning over the pages of my Bible, from the golden calf of the Israelites to Christ's tortured final cry, my God, why have you forsaken me? Then I turned to Revelation, my namesake, and read about the angels with the 7 trumpets, which brought terrible plagues and hardship on the planet. How I wanted to see Maxine beset by locusts with scorpion tails. Maybe I would buy a trumpet. Was it possible I was an angel? The angel with the small scroll? Or was I the reincarnation of John, who swallowed the angel's scroll, though it turned sour in his stomach? I tore out this page, balled it up, and ate it. Let the revelation come. And then it did. Dad. God. Of course. He was winning big at blackjack. Maxine was eating a bologna sandwich while she dealt. Most people had left the table for dinner, but a few remained, the inveterate gamblers. I stood before them all and said, "My name is John, and I'm an addict." Yeah, you, Dad, have been my addiction, my false idol, my God before God. I am powerless over you, and you have become unmanageable. My life has been made unmanageable by you. Dad had the cockeyed expression of someone trying to place a face. But power greater than me will restore me to sanity, I said, choking a little. And I am making a decision to turn over my will and my life to that power. I closed my eyes and saw an angel wrapped with a halo about his head and feet like pillars of fire. Except it wasn't a he at all. It was Maxine. She rested 1 foot in sea and 1 on land, and she was preparing to read what I had to swallow. I cried out then, and felt my cry echo through the heavens.
Natasha Partnoy. And Zachary Desmond. Thank you again for coming. The store will be open for a little while longer, so if you'd like to get any last things from the cafe, you're welcome to. Mingle, chat, whatever you'd like, and have a great rest of your evening.
Maybe get a book. Thank you to P&T Knitwear as well for having us. This is a free event made possible by their courteous extension of the space. There is opportunity to get snacks, which goes to them and helps support their work in the community.